What began as a friendly late-night interview between two old friends quickly spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable and explosive moments ever broadcast on live television, and by the time Seth Rogen walked off that stage, nothing in Hollywood would ever be the same again. There was a time when watching Seth Rogen walk onto Jimmy Kimmel's stage felt like comfort food for late-night viewers. You knew what you were getting: laughter, unpredictability, and a kind of stoner genius that made even the most mundane story explode with color. The audience loved it. Jimmy loved it. Seth loved it. They shared more than just Hollywood war stories. They shared a rapport that was rare in a business built on cameras and masks. Seth wasn't just a guest, he was almost part of the show's DNA. Over the years, he'd appeared to promote cult comedies, edgy indie projects, and even heartfelt causes. And Jimmy, the late-night anchor who had interviewed presidents and prank-called Matt Damon for fun, always seemed most alive when Seth was in the chair. It was this chemistry, the kind that felt honest in an industry of rehearsed laughs, that made their dynamic legendary. But if you were watching closely on that final night, something was off from the very beginning. The energy, the eyes, the awkward pauses. It was subtle at first, but then, it wasn't. It started small. Jimmy cracked a joke, one of those slightly backhanded compliments that had always been part of their banter, about one of Seth's newer films not performing quite like Superbad did. The audience chuckled, but Seth didn't. He gave a tight smile, leaned back in his chair, and fired back with a comment that wasn't really a joke. Well, I guess we can't all ride the same formula for 20 years and still call it fresh. Jimmy's laugh was delayed. Nervous, the audience sensed it too. It wasn't a bit. This wasn't rehearsed. And then the conversation kept shifting, from awkward to uncomfortable. Jimmy pressed him on political activism, a topic Seth had grown more vocal about. "Do you ever feel like you've become more of a Twitter warrior than an actor?" he asked. The audience laughed, but Seth's face didn't. "Do you ever feel like you've become more of a TMZ headline reader than a host?" The studio went silent. That moment, those few seconds changed everything. The smiles faded. The tension tightened. Two old friends, once in sync, were now spiraling into something personal, and the cameras were rolling. What followed next was something late-night TV was never meant to hold. A raw, unscripted, and clearly personal argument unfolding under lights meant for laughter. Jimmy, clearly trying to steer the segment back on track, forced a grin and pivoted to a question about weed culture, something Seth had embraced openly. But the question was framed in a way that felt mocking. "Do you ever worry that people take you less seriously because, well, you're always high?" Seth paused, visibly irritated. "Do you ever worry people take you more seriously than they should just because you wear a suit?" The room erupted, but not in laughter. It was a murmur of disbelief. Seth was done playing the game. What followed were pointed jabs disguised as jokes, childhood stories turned into ammunition, and years of friendship being pulled apart thread by thread. Jimmy accused Seth of letting his ego grow bigger than his laugh. Seth accused Jimmy of selling out long ago. The segment was supposed to be 10 minutes. It went on for 2. Producers stood off stage, frozen. The audience looked around, unsure if they were watching entertainment or a car crash in slow motion, and when Jimmy said, "Maybe you should go, if this isn't fun for you anymore," Seth stood up. No dramatic speech, no mic drop, just a single sentence. "You're right, maybe I should." And with that, he walked off. Mid-interview, no goodbye, just silence. In the hours that followed, social media exploded. Clips of the moment, edited, zoomed, remixed, went viral in minutes. Seth Rogen storms off Jimmy Kimmel Live. Trended worldwide. Fans picked sides like it was a courtroom drama. Some said Seth was right, that Jimmy had become too polished, too safe, too cynical for real voices. Others called Seth thin-skinned, egotistical, out of touch. But behind the scenes, what unraveled was even messier. Crew members leaked details. 2 tabloids. One source said, "That wasn't a fight. That was a breakup." Another claimed Seth had refused pre-show prep entirely, walking in cold with a chip on his shoulder. Jimmy, according to insiders, was visibly shaken after the taping. He hadn't expected it to go that far. And neither, perhaps, had Seth. But in a city like Los Angeles, where relationships are made of press tours and red carpets, that kind of real rupture doesn't just go away. Apologies were reportedly offered, but never accepted. Jimmy never mentioned Seth by name in the next episode. Seth, for his part, avoided all late-night appearances for months. The bond that once seemed unbreakable was gone. It's been months since that night, but its impact still lingers. Seth Rogen has since shifted focus not just to film, but to creating his own space where he doesn't have to filter who he is for a talk show format. He's launched independent projects, hosted unscripted podcasts, and has become a symbol of unfiltered honesty, for better or worse. Jimmy Kimmel, meanwhile, remains a late-night titan, but those who watch closely say he's changed. A little more careful, a little less spontaneous. Some even say there's a distance in his eyes when old friends come to visit. The walk-off wasn't just a moment, it was a mirror reflecting how easily friendships, even ones shaped by years of laughter, can crack under pressure. Hollywood is a town that feeds on scripted moments. But when the script disappears, when two people say what they really mean, it leaves a scar. One that doesn't always fade with time. Some still believe the whole thing was staged. Others insist it was real. But whatever it was unforgettable. And for those who saw it unfold, whether in the studio or through a viral video on their phone at 2 a.m., one thing was certain. They had just witnessed the end of something bigger than a talk show segment. They had watched two legends fall out live, on air, and walk away without looking back. Some moments in television history are staged, written, or forgotten, but this one, it cut too deep to disappear. It wasn't just about ego or misunderstanding. It was about two men, two careers, two different versions of truth colliding under the hottest lights in Hollywood. Seth Rogen and Jimmy Kimmel gave us years of laughter, but in the end, they gave us something far more real, a glimpse behind the curtain, where fame meets friction, and friendship meets its breaking point. And as the lights dimmed that night, it wasn't applause that echoed in the studio. It was silence.